Welcome to the Voice of Business, sponsored by the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce services the different towns of Beverly, Danvers, Hamilton, and Wenham. And today, we're going to bring you a show on the Voice of Business that's kind of interesting, some new technology that's come up, and also a way for small businesses to really participate much more effectively in the social media environment. So with me today, I'm joined by Carl Norloff, Jr. He's the president of Rebo, and he's going to tell us about his business and how it helps small businesses work together. And what I'd like to do is have you tell us a little bit about your background, Carl, if you can give us some information about that.
Okay. Well, I've been fortunate in that I come from the tech space, working for some pretty iconic companies like M&M Mars, Walt Disney, building strategic solutions for them, with a focus and passion around loyalty, consumer behavior, and analytics, which today is very relevant because the way we engage small businesses and the way we engage each other and how businesses engage us has changed dramatically. So my background has been focused on how does that happen? How do we track that? How do we analyze it?
Okay. And when you were with Mars, you were doing more for the production side of it, in the sense of tracking what went to the stores?
In a way. They used to have a broker model, and where all their products would go to a broker. My job there was to create systems to allow them to do direct store delivery, so that they can put Mars bars and M&Ms and everything else on one truck, send it out to the stores.
Okay.
Did the same thing with Walt Disney.
All right. Well, I had some experience with that, but with the grocery store, I worked with Shaw's to help them put in their loyalty card, which is no longer in existence. But we did that back in the late, actually the mid 90s, and that was a big deal because we were trying to get an understanding of what the customers were buying and how we could reward them with a loyalty program. So it was pretty successful for a number of years, and now they've changed their model a little bit.
Yeah, loyalty is very important. Everyone's in the loyalty game today, but it's very important because it's all about consumer behavior.
Yep, yep. Well, very good. So let's talk about one of the things that you talked about the other day when we were chatting was about the idea of building a community. And I have an idea what that is from what you said, but why don't you just explain to the audience what the idea of a business community is and how that might help a business? Okay,
well, when you talk about community, it really implies a structure, a cohesive environment, right? The way we define community on Rebo is people, businesses, and not-for-profits working together, engaging, collaborating, right? So from the context of a business, building a community is, how do we create a community around things people are passionate about? It might be health and wellness, it might be beer, it might be wine, it might be pets, right? So building these communities that addresses, the people, the businesses, and not-for-profits together in one place just allows everyone to engage on local things that matter.
So I get that, but how do you get people to join?
It's interesting because our model, what we do is it's all about the small business, right? As a small business, I have customers, they're my fans, right? So if I create content that my fans are, whether it's a promotion or an event or a blog, it really doesn't matter. But the idea is that my fans are loyal to my business, so I can engage them. And if I had one place to engage them like we do on Rebo, now I can start building that community. If I connect to, as a business, a small business, if I connect to like businesses that allow me to build my referral network, right? So now I'm engaging other businesses that also have consumers or customers or fans, right? So now you put them all together in one place, and now you have an effective way of engaging.
So this is like the 6th degree of separation.
Exactly.
To a much higher power, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, as a small business, you have a limited reach, and we'll talk about social in another topic, but you have a limited reach. But if you connect to other businesses, so if I was a wedding planner, I'd say, well, geez, I connect to a florist, a bartender, a limo driver, a jeweler. And together, we all share customers, right? Now we all have our fans, but if we can put them in one community, now we can all interact with those people at different levels.
I think that's a good point, because one of the things I look at with companies is innovation and talking about what they do, and businesses sometimes can get ideas from other industries.
Exactly.
And so you may not think that you're going to get that as a florist shop, where maybe a jeweler is important, but you don't necessarily think that. Think, what are other florist shops doing? So now you're looking at a broader spectrum.
Well, it's really what you're after as a small business, right? You want to grow your customer base.
Yep.
Where are your customers? Well, they're all over the place, right? So the key is attaching to businesses that allow you to access customers that are valuable to you, what you do.
Okay. And so the benefit for the customers, not so much the businesses that join, but your customers, what's the benefit for them?
Well, if you look at today, as I'd mentioned earlier, how we engage and collaborate together is very different than what it used to be, right? With the web, with the internet, with all the social spaces, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everyone's everywhere, right? So as a small business, it's very hard to get people's attention, right? So by the value to a consumer, potential consumer, is one, I have one destination, one platform that I can go, and I can find out everything that's going on in my community. I can engage with the businesses that I'm interested in, that I'm fans of, learn about new businesses. So I'm not, I live in Georgetown, and we have probably 15 different Facebook groups that, everything from the parents group to lacrosse group to all these different things. So it's really not a good way of collaborating, right? I mean, it's timeline based, things get lost. So the value is having a single destination where you're really focusing on local things that matter, away from the distraction of all the social sites.
Right.
So it's kind of encapsulated into one space.
Well, those other sites are all siloed.
Well, that's it. I mean,
and
as
they're
a
not
small,
coming back.
right? As a small business, everything that you do today, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, each of those requires a focus. Each of those requires strategy, and each require a budget. Not too many small businesses, mom and pops, have the expertise or the budget or the time to really address all those.
Right.
Right. And that's really what we're trying to address with the Revo platform, is to give small businesses a voice without having to go into 25 different directions or spend a lot of money.
Okay, good. Well, you've talked about Revo, but nobody knows what that is right now. And I think that what we'd like to do is talk about it. And the one question I guess I have is very, very simply is, what's the name?
Well, Revo doesn't mean anything. I had this amazing German Shorthair Pointer dog. His name was Rio, and for whatever reason, my kids started calling him Revo. And when I was thinking about a name for my company, I didn't want anything that associated with my local business or my town.com or whatever it was. I wanted it to really be about the people and the businesses and the nonprofits on the platform, not about a very specific thing, because Revo is a platform for a lot of things. So it doesn't mean anything. It's just a nickname of my dog.
Well, that's a good one. Good one. Okay, let's talk about the journey then. Okay. So how long have you been developing the solution that you have?
Well, in my career, I've spent many, many nights away from home in hotels and apartments all over the country. And while I was there, I wanted to keep busy, and more importantly, keep up to date with technology. As I'm an old guy, right? I gotta keep up to date to compete with the younger crowd. I had this idea. This idea actually goes back to 1998, but the technology just wasn't there. So, as it became available, I started building this thing, and with the idea that I had a better way for small businesses to interact, and a better way for a community to interact. And my wife is a small business owner. She owns Lynn's Vintage Flair in Raleigh, and she hates the computer. She's not tech savvy, and I saw how she struggled with trying to get the word out about what she does. And that really was the impetus of starting this company. And how can I help the small business, without being a burden of either cost or time.
Right. So how did you go about developing this? So you said 1998, the idea came up, but now it's 2016. That's 18 years later.
That's a long time. I mean, actually, it hasn't been in development that long, but I mean, bits and pieces of it. I actually started with, a base set of technology when Microsoft came out with their, internet services and all the technology, their base technology when they first started. We actually built, when I worked with S&H Green Stamps to become Green Points, we were doing things with technology, web technology that nobody was doing at the time. So it really got my attention in terms of what we can do with it. So, so I started building it around yard sales, because my wife is, it's a whole culture of people that love to go out yard selling.
Right.
And so, including my wife. So she would just go out driving to different towns, looking for yard sale signs. And so I thought to myself, wouldn't it be better if you had a map that showed you all the clusters of yard sales? And so I built that, and then I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if I was out yard selling, if I can get a free Coke with my pizza while I'm out doing that? So then I got the businesses involved, and that was really the start of Rebo.
So how did you map it? How did people subscribe to that service?
Rebo is all about word of mouth, right? So when you engage on the platform, at the time there wasn't even social sharing then, right?
Sure.
But at the time it was just word of mouth, and which is the most important thing, right? In terms of, you're a business, you have fans. How do you create that word of mouth? How do you get people talking about your business? And today we want them obviously to talk about that in their social spaces, but it was all word of mouth. And every Thursday and Friday the site would go nuts from people looking for yard sales, looking at the map, printing them out, going doing their yard sale thing, and that's really where it started. So I mentioned I've been around, the country, sitting in hotel rooms. I just started with yard sales, and then I thought, well, how else can we leverage the business connection? And then I realized that cause-based things are amazing, right? If I'm a dog rescue, for instance, I have a number of passionate supporters. Well, how can we leverage that to help a small business get exposure? So really the premise of Rebo is the tenet of Rebo is really taking people, businesses, and nonprofits and putting them together and doing things with them.
Right.
So that's how it evolved over the years. So I kept adding, and people said, "Oh, it's too big, too broad." But the reality is that people are doing these things in all these different silos, as we talked about. It's like, well, let's give a small business and a nonprofit the ability to say, "Okay, well, I'm going to choose what I want to do, but I'm going to do that on one platform."
Yeah. Well, that's very helpful, I'm sure. How did you incentivize businesses to participate?
It's been a challenge only because when you take a look at what Rebo is, it's a story. It's not about, if you're selling a pen, it's very easy. I'm selling a pen, you know what a pen is, I get it. With Rebo, it's more about, engagement. How do you engage people? So when you try to talk to a small business about that, it's very difficult. But when I show them what Rebo does, and this is, it's a very easy conversation, because it's very, the problems are pretty generic and in terms of what small businesses are dealing with. They're all dealing with the same thing. The silos of everything, the cost of everything, the fact that they get calls every day about someone that wants to help, right? And, so the conversation is very easy when you say, well, this solves that problem, right? We're going to give you, tools that enable you to interact with people anytime you want, but more importantly, these are people that are interested in what you're doing because we have a targeted audience. Again, we're building communities around things people are passionate about. So if I'm passionate about craft beer, right, I'm engaging people. If I'm a craft beer brewer, I can engage people that are actually like what I do.
Right.
So getting businesses to engage, actually, we have like a 99.9% close rate when we actually can sit down with a business and show them what we're doing.
Okay.
So it's a little bit drawn out, and it'll catch on, but when you're doing something new, it just takes a while for people to get the whole idea and the concept.
Well, we had a chart that you sent me that I don't know if we can put up on the screen right now or not, but basically it talks about the various connections that Rebo is able to do. And why don't you talk about some of those connections? Because I think that, again, myself, being a small business kind of guy, is that if I play around on Facebook, if I play around on LinkedIn, if I go do something on Twitter, not at 3 in the morning, but if I do something on Twitter, that takes time.
It does.
And I find, frankly, that when I get into Facebook or LinkedIn, I get in LinkedIn hell or Facebook hell because it sucks up time very, very quickly.
Well, you're right. And one of the things about all these social platforms is that they're only part of the strategy for a small business, right? The fact that you post on Facebook is one thing, but what you're trying to do as a small business is convert customers, right? Facebook is great for accessing a lot of people, but out of those people, how many are actually customers that you can convert, right? So, it's a small piece of the puzzle. So, okay, I'm posting on Facebook, but now what do I do with those people that are engaging? Where do I send them? How do I convert them? And then you've got the website involved now because you need a strategy for pushing people from Facebook to your website to ultimately convert them, right? As a small business, it's extremely difficult to get any traction there because Facebook filters your posts. You might have 800 followers, you post something and it'll tell you 14 people saw it. Well, that's just great, isn't it? Right? The reality is if you're not getting people to like, share, and comment on your post, nobody's seeing it. So my philosophy is that I want people to talk about, every small business has a story, and research suggests that people like to engage small business owners directly. The engagement is much greater, right? So if I can get via our platform, if I can get somebody talking about my business on their timelines, the reach is more, it's exponential, right? It's more valuable.
But in order to do that, I've got to create some type of content to put out there.
You do.
And so in the Rebo case, how often do you put content out there?
Well, what I love about the model of what Rebo does is that every small business has a personality. Every small business owner has a story. When you talk about mom and pops, the business is about them, really. Without the mom and pop, there's really nothing. I mean, it's not like a big corporate structure where you kind of get lost. It's about their story, right? So Rebo is a platform for giving people a voice, whether it's a business, nonprofit, or a person. So when a business tells their story, we talk about content. We have 18 different tools that we have a business that a business could use to tell their story. It might be an event, it might be a business directory listing, it might be a blog, it might be a promotion, a featured item, it might be just a personal story. So a business really doesn't have to do a lot. They might engage, do something once a week. And when they do that, we package it up and we make it available to their audience.
And your packaging is done by the distribution side of it, or is it something you do as an organization to help them?
Yeah, it happens automatically.
Okay.
Rebo canvasses all the content and curates it and packages it up, and based on an individual's preference in terms of how often they want to be notified, we'll get that notification via either an email, a mobile app, or a text message. So there's a lot of different ways that we can engage. We also have real-time interactions where a business could actually say, you know what, I want to select a target. I want to target people that like yard sales, and I want to target people that are in Georgetown, and they could actually create an interaction real time and actually reach out to those people.
So they're back and forth. And forth. Okay.
I mean, and that's the challenge a lot of small businesses have, whether it's Facebook or anything else. It's always a one-way type of thing, right? What we want to do on Rebo is we want to create that collaboration, that engagement. We want a two-way conversation.
Right.
And that builds loyalty, and that builds a relationship. Right?
I mean, with Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, I mean, it's right. It is one way. I mean, you get a like back if somebody likes it, or maybe someone shares it.
Right.
But you really don't get the feedback in terms of what they thought.
And you don't know who you're talking to.
Right.
You don't know how valuable that customer is.
Right.
As I had mentioned, we had talked about this earlier, where all these platforms, it's a fast-speeding train. Right? I'm a small business standing there on the platform. This thing is screaming by, and that's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those social sites, right? What we want to do is get them off that fast train, right? We want to get them into a space where we can, engage them.
Right.
Now, if you look at, all the social places, or sites like Facebook, it's a great way to get a lot of people, right? So we've got this big funnel, right? And we use Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all those to dump people in that funnel. But what we want to do is by the time they come out into a Rebo platform, is that they're the audience I want to deal with. These are the audience that most likely will engage my business.
Okay. So what other platforms, I mentioned Facebook and I mentioned LinkedIn and Twitter, but there's other platforms that you support as well that you push the content out to?
Well, any social place, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, most every social site we push out content to. And it's just as easy as a business entering something on the Rebo platform, and everything that we do is connected socially, so they just hit the Facebook button and push it out.
So from a technology standpoint, again, that's my background from 100 years ago, we used punch cards.
Mine too.
We used punch cards, but I used different kind of punch cards. Mine's were, as my kids would say, were made out of papyrus. But the point I was trying to get to was that with the technology, what is the technology you're using today to enable this?
The technology is all based on the Microsoft technology stack, right?
Okay.
All the latest technology, HTML5, Bootstrap, JavaScript, it's built in C#, SQL Server, all the tech stuff, right?
Okay, so you didn't go to SharePoint.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, what I wanted was a plug-and-play platform.
Yep.
I wanted a way where if a business wants a gift registry, I can plug it in. If they want a contest, I can plug it in. So it's really a plug-and-play platform that allows us to do what businesses want to do.
And when did that first come out? Now, beyond the yard sales, but you've had this out for a couple years now, right?
Yeah, I've rebuilt this platform many times to keep current on the technology. That's the only way that I can stay engaged in the technology and see where it's going. I mean, we're even in terms of where we are today with technology, we're in for another big shift in another next iteration of where tech is going in terms of the whole design and interaction and speed and volume, scalability. So I've had to keep up to date, and so
Right.
I think I must have rebuilt this platform 3 or 4 times over the last 3 or 4 years.
So when you say you rebuilt it, you personally rebuilt it.
Yes.
So you're a small business chief cook and bottle washer.
You got it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just wish we had 24 hours in each day,
Well, you don't, but you got to prioritize.
Exactly.
That's the important thing to work with.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got that, and where are you in launching? You mentioned yesterday that you were thinking about launching another version.
We do. We have a brand new platform coming out in the first quarter, all mobile-based, all analytic-based, which is the missing piece of the puzzle, really, that we've been after, is that when you ask a small business, about performance, whether it's week over week, month over month, year over year, there's really a big disconnect in terms of what they do, what they pay people to do, and what actually happens. So if you say, oh, geez, I had a big revenue bump last Wednesday, why? They have no idea, right? So what we've done with this new platform is to provide an analytic platform, a visual platform, or console, control panel, that allows them to actually see that I did this promotion, I did this post, I did this Facebook post, and see how, so they can kind of get an idea of what they're doing is working. Because I talk to so many businesses that, I've spent $4,000 last year on advertising. I have no idea whether it helped or not.
Sure.
And that's really what we're trying to fix, right? We want to change that perspective and give them the tools to say, okay, now I've got the tool where I can actually see when I'm doing something that works or not. And on the Rebo platform, because it's not, it's not a menu-based thing in terms of payment. Once you pay to buy, once you join our platform, it doesn't matter how much you do. So if you do something, if you're doing a direct mail piece and it doesn't work, right? What's your option? To do another one, different message,
Right,
different whatever.
right.
On Rebo, you could do 1,000 things. It doesn't matter. You keep trying until you figure out what resonates with your consumers.
Now, when I looked at your site, you had Massachusetts and New Hampshire, I think, and Maine.
Yes.
And you also had the West Coast. You had Oregon and
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there.
That was an accident, actually.
Okay.
We're in pilot mode, or have been in pilot mode, and we're getting ready to launch in Massachusetts. But Rebo's out there. So we have the ability for anybody to go in and create a social space. And there was a group of folks in Portland, Oregon that it's a community where they have all the neighbors get together for a wine tasting every week. And so they created a wine group on Rebo. And their
Okay.
thought was they were going to they have 5 vineyards within 5 miles of their home. So they were going to get the vineyards to do a Wine of the Month club in their group, which is a real creative thing.
Sure.
And also I saw a craft beer one pop up as well.
Yep.
In Portland, craft beer is a big thing. And so again, it's creating communities around things people are passionate about, and then you connect businesses and nonprofits to those. So I was shocked. I had to actually shut that down because I can't support it, a Portland, Oregon, implementation yet. So where we are today is we're rolling out here in Massachusetts. We're starting in earnest now with a full rollout next year to 2,000 local businesses. And right now we're very strategic in the businesses that we're engaging.
So what type of businesses are you engaging?
If you have a product or service, Rebo's a perfect fit.
Okay.
Right. It really doesn't matter what your business is.
So is it B2B or B2C?
It could be B2B. Obviously, if you're a B2B business, say you sell promotional materials, being on Rebo and having access to a very, a closed audience, right, exclusive audience of people. So if we have 2,000 businesses on Rebo, and you sell promotional products and you have access to those 2,000 businesses, that's a valuable thing, right? So we're looking for partners for promotional materials, financial, web, it doesn't really matter, printing, as credit card services, it really doesn't matter, as a B2B channel, right? And then we have, obviously the businesses that create their networks on Rebo have access to consumers.
Sure.
So
sure.
it really covers the whole spectrum of B2B, B2C, business to consumer out, to whatever, nonprofits. So we cover the whole gamut.
That's great. That's great. I mean, it's got to be somewhat rewarding, more than somewhat rewarding, if thinking about 18 years ago to where you are today.
It's been a journey for sure.
Yep.
And what drives me and keeps me going many times, especially my wife says, would you please get a real job? But we've kept pushing because it's so important to be an advocate for the small businesses. I mean, that's your space as well.
Right.
Small businesses need help. They don't have the time, the expertise, or the budget to do things at the level that would really generate value for them. So for me, this has been a journey of passion because I really, really love the small business and admire what small business owners do because it's hard. It really is hard to run a small business.
Well, it is. I mean, you don't have the staff like you had at M&M Mars.
No. When you have a $30 million budget, things go a long way, right? And 180 people.
You don't have that. So I mean, you just don't have that opportunity. And so the small biz guy has to end up doing everything. From start to finish. And that part of that passion of what they like to do versus what the administrative side of it and the promotion stuff may not be the same thing.
Well, what happens? They shut down because they're overwhelmed. So I mean, they're not HR people, they're not tech people, they're not marketers, right? They're making what they do. I mean, they love what they do, right? So everything else seems to kind of just. So what they end up doing is hiring people to do it for them, spend a lot of money, and some things are tangible. Like if you're hiring a bookkeeper, you've got that, right?
Right.
But if from a marketing perspective, it kind of gets lost.
Okay. Well, what things might you say to the audience that we want to take away from this conversation?
Jump on. Rebo is an incredible platform for the local community. The more people that engage, the more businesses, nonprofits, and people that are on the platform doing things together. It's about local things that matter. It's not about the distraction of Facebook and busy timelines. It's about what's happening in our schools, what's happening in local politics, local sports, just local things that matter. And so the idea is that, jump on, find your community. If it's not there, create it. You can create your own community. So, if you're in Salem and Salem isn't there, jump on, create it. Jump in, invite your friends to join you. If you're a fan of a business and they're not on Rebo, invite them to join, right? Because the bigger this thing gets, the more valuable it becomes.
So when you say you're starting just in Massachusetts for the rollout,
yes,
does that mean people in Maine and New Hampshire can't join?
They can, right? In terms of our sales focus and engaging businesses, anybody can join from anywhere today.
Okay.
Right? But in terms of our scalability and wanting to ensure that the platform is scalable, we want to take a measured approach to how we roll this out.
Okay.
But anybody can join from anywhere. It doesn't anywhere in the country. You can join. Invite a business to join you and create or a business. You can create your fan base and go forward. We're just at the point where we want to be able to support everybody. So we need teams.
Well, let's wrap up here because we're running out of time, and I really appreciate you coming in today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
And a great opportunity to learn about Rebo and the things you're doing. Let me do a little bit of commercial message for the Chamber of Commerce. We have a program there we call Keep It Local, and what it does is it's meant to have people in the Beverly Chamber of Commerce area to purchase from local businesses because local businesses really keep our community healthy and strong. In addition, we're looking at a couple future shows that I wanted to just mention. One is we're going to do one on effectively communicating with anyone. We're looking at leveraging a state-of-the-art conference center for your business and then risk avoidance through an annual insurance review. So those are some things you should look for in Voice of Business coming into the future. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening, and on behalf of the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce, thank you for listening to the Voice of Business.